AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM. Peter Zimmer and Mike Pava here with you on this Friday morning, 7:38. And joining us now in studio is a man who was just telling us off the air about what an uneventful and dull week he has had. He is the mayor-elect of Brockton, Mr. Bill Carpenter. Bill, congratulations and welcome to the program.
Good morning, guys. Great to be back on PM in the AM. And what have you guys been up to this week?
There's been nothing to cover or talk about.
Nothing going on.
Absolutely nothing going on. Bill, a little more than 7 months ago, you came on our program on April 5th, not to announce that you'd be running for mayor, but to, oddly enough, announce that you'd be making an announcement, which
That's right.
oddly seemed like you were going to be running for mayor.
It was a fine line, yeah. There was the pre-announcement.
It was the pre-announcement to the announcement. You're worse than LeBron James in retrospect.
Not really. I just needed everyone to show up on Friday night.
Oh, you just needed everyone to show up on Friday night. Let's talk about the campaign. You are the mayor-elect of Brockton.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, and I'm already working. And so as I told my supporters Tuesday night, I took Wednesday off. I think was my in the 7 months that I campaigned from the date that we announced, April 5th. I took 1 day off. I was really sick around the time of the preliminary. The day after the preliminary, I stayed home in bed. The next day, I was still sick for a couple of weeks, but I was back out at least on a limited schedule, and I really needed a day off. So we all agreed I could have Wednesday off, and I started meeting with people 7 o'clock yesterday morning. I spent over 2 hours at a traffic commission meeting last night because there's a very dangerous intersection up off of North Quincy Street where people are getting killed, and the residents have had to witness the carnage there for years. And I thought it was important that I be there to support the residents of the neighborhood and get up to speed myself with exactly what the what the issues are and what are the steps that can be taken. So, I mean, I won't be the mayor until January 6th, and I understand that. But I've got a lot of work to do because I have to be ready to take over city government on January 6th. And I plan to hit the ground with, running, and we'll have initiatives in that first week.
January 6th, what is the first initiative? What's the first order of business when you take the mayor's office at City Hall?
Well, trying to get the oath right is probably first, but then after that, there's no doubt, guys, I said it throughout the campaign, that the number one issue facing the city is the epidemic of violence, and violent crime is our number one priority. Not that we don't have dozens of other things we have to address, but I just think I don't think you can fix everything else until you stop the violence. I don't know how you convince people to open a business in Brockton or how you convince people to buy a house in Brockton if we can't get off the Boston news stations every night with the latest shooting or stabbing. And I learned a lot during the campaign. And I learned, I knocked on a lot of doors, and I think there's a lot of folks out in the city will tell you, I visited their door and I walked their neighborhood. And in my mind, the violent crime is number one, and then we've got to find a way to give people some real property tax relief, both to homeowners and business owners. And we've got to get jobs back in the city. We've got to get businesses back in the city. So we'll have a lot of initiatives, but there's no doubt that, the primary focus of our entire team on day one and long before day one will be the violence in the city. We've just got to do a better job, and we've got to make concrete steps. And, I've laid out a 10-point plan, and you don't get that whole thing implemented on day one, but we'll begin implementing it on day one.
We're chatting with Mayor-elect of Brockton, Bill Carpenter, here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You had a plan to subside violence in the city that you said from day one was to go street by street, block by block, and there was some subsidies of that, which sitting mayor Linda Balzotti said that you're going to find out that you can't do once you become mayor. Do you think that holds true?
No, I think that's a negative attitude, and we're different personalities, and I'm coming into this thing. I'm going to surround myself with great people, and Peter, do I think I can change the world in a day? Of course not. But I do believe we can bring about positive change. I do, in my heart, believe we can make the streets and the neighborhoods of this city safer. I do believe that we've got an approach and a plan that utilizes a lot of techniques and strategies that have been successful elsewhere. I mean, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. If you can look in other cities and see things that have worked, I'm more than willing to take successful ideas from other cities and apply them in Brockton. And I think that's going to apply to addressing the violence. I think that's going to apply to helping businesses. I mean, I touted the Main Streets program that's been a huge success with Menino and Boston. I mean, I'm going to bring that to Brockton. It's not my original idea, but it's a great program that's had enormous success in the city of Boston. So why wouldn't I bring it to Brockton? Our businesses in the city need some help.
Bill, what was the hardest part of the last 7 months for you?
It was a tough, dirty campaign, and I don't believe on my side. I think if you go back and check all the quotes, I don't think I ever said a personally negative thing about any of the three candidates I ran against. But I certainly was on the receiving end of some of it, and for me, hey, listen, I signed up for it, and you don't cry about it when it happens. I think the tough part of it for me was the impact it had on some of my children who had to endure it, and I think they were kind of innocent bystanders in it, but it is what it is. We got past it. I hope I showed people that under difficult circumstances, I can keep my composure, keep my eye on the ball, and I'll do that as the mayor. There's lots of things, but you know what, Mike, I got to tell you, the positives way outweigh the negatives. And that has nothing to do with the result. I had a lot of time to think that last 24, 48 hours. I didn't sleep real well the last couple nights of the campaign. And it wasn't that I was nervous. It was more like anxious, that you've been working on this thing for so long, you just want to know how it's going to come out. And I honestly felt I had done everything I could do. I wasn't going to have any regrets if it didn't come out in our favor. But I really spent a lot of time thinking about the relationships I made with people. I mean, I had people that worked in my campaign that I didn't know when the campaign started, and they're close friends of mine now, and also friends that I've had for decades who helped me too. So I just look at all these people that, I mean, if you knew how hard people on my campaign worked, dedicated their heart and soul. I mean, as volunteers, no one got paid in my campaign. Everyone was a volunteer, and that made a big impression. That's the big positive. That's the part I still have trouble realizing a little bit, that all of these folks believed in me so much that they were willing to work tirelessly as volunteers, doing everything they could to help me win that election. And they were just as emotionally invested in it as I was. And people often said to me, because I did work hard during the campaign, and people would come up and say to me, they say, Bill, you're one of the hardest working candidates I've ever seen. And I'd say, well, you know what? You should see some of the people I've got working for me, and I've got to work at least as hard as they do, or else I can't come back and face them the next day. So I think that their dedication to me and their efforts for me pushed me to work that much harder.
One unique aspect of this campaign is
one?
Well, there's many. But one is that you were a sitting Ward 5 school committee member,
right,
which meant you had to deal directly with Mayor Linda Balzotti as a school committee member, while at the same time, concurrently, campaigning against her as you were vying for her seat. Now you will be, I assume, working alongside her to some degree in the transition process as she leaves City Hall and you make your way in January. Has that process already begun, and what do you expect it to be like if it hasn't?
No, it hasn't begun because, quite honestly, and I'm trying to be respectful to the mayor, she has not announced her decision as to whether she's going to seek a recount or not. And under state law, she has 10 days to make that decision. And I don't have any problem with her taking a few days to really reflect upon it and talk to the people whose advice she really values. But I think that you really can't officially start a transition process until she announces whether she's going to seek a recount or not. I've been asked many times to comment on what I think she should do, and I'm not going to comment on that because that's her decision. It's not mine. And I think I really do have a lot of empathy for the position she's in, because when you win by 50, it means you could have just as easily lost by 50, and that thought has not escaped me. I'm trying not to do too much publicly until she lets everyone know what her intentions are regarding a recount. I have spoken with the elections officials. I've spoken with the city clerk. They have reassured me that there's no scenario where the outcome will change in a recount. The ballots are counted by machines that are tried and tested and extremely reliable. If you think back 6 years ago to the recount on the Sullivan-Brady state rep race, that margin was like 13 to 14, and they spent all day long recounting everything, and the result changed by one vote. There was one absentee ballot that was successfully challenged. So, in a recount, could the result change by 1 or 2? I'm sure it could. Might not change at all. Not going to change by 55. So I'm confident that we are the new administration and that I will be the mayor on January 6th. But again, in terms of the recount, it's Mayor Balzotti's decision, and she has a right to take the time that the law gives her to, she's got to make the best decision in her heart for what she believes is best for the city, best for herself, best for the people who supported her. And I'm not going to comment on that until she makes a decision, and then certainly I'll respond after that. So we are doing some groundwork preparing a recount team in the event that she does ask for the recount. And
what does a recount team do?
Well, you actually have to have for a recount. You have to have
you have to get signatures.
20. No, it's not on our side, but you have to bring your own people to the recount. I think you have to have 24
just to observe.
To participate and observe in the recount. You have at these counting stations, each candidate has 2 people there. Then you also have to have a couple other marshals. And I've actually just been learning all of this in the last couple of days. But, we've spoken to some election law experts. We've spoken to the city officials. If we have to go through it, we'll go through it. But we're very confident that the result is not going to change. But again, in terms of whether we do that or not, that's the mayor's call. And she's got 10 days to make the call, and I kind of suspect that she's probably taking a few days, maybe even taking the long weekend to, really think about it. And I know this is a difficult time for her, so I'm being respectful to her, and we'll give her the opportunity to make that decision, and then we'll move forward. So it does affect the transition. So I'm having private conversations with folks. I expect to spend most of this weekend talking to people about who should be on a transition team and what type of people we need to have and accepting recommendations. But we won't do anything officially until we find out what the status of the recount is.
We're chatting with Mayor-Elect of the City of Brockton, Bill Carpenter. Speaking of the transition process, come January, do you plan on removing or replacing any department heads in the city? I know it's early.
Yeah, so let me answer it in general terms, because it's also not lost on me. There will be changes. I said there will be changes during the campaign. There will be changes in city government. There'll be changes inside City Hall. There'll be changes on city boards. There will be changes. But I'm also very sensitive to the fact, we're talking about people's jobs, livelihoods. Mm-hmm. They all have families. So I am going to approach this as sensitively and as professionally as I can. I've got to assemble my own team. And I think that this is what happens, whether it's the president, the governor, or the mayor. When you win an election, you earn the right to assemble your own team. You've got to have people that you trust and that you have complete confidence in around you. And that's going to be a big part of the process, absolutely. And will there be changes? Yes, there will be changes. I promised there would be changes, and there will be. But I'm not going to speculate on individuals. When the time is appropriate, we'll have those conversations with people where we may make a change. And that is kind of later in the transition. The reality is we've got to be ready to run city government on January 6th. I mean, we've got to have a team in place ready to run city government. It's not a legislative position. It's a CEO position. So we're going to be ready for that. There will be changes, but I'm not going to speculate on individual people because it's not. First of all, I'm not the mayor yet, and secondly, it's not fair to those folks. And I'm going to be as fair as I possibly can, and I'm going to try as best I can not to leave people twisting in the wind too long, and let them know whether I plan to retain them or not.
He's not going to speculate on individuals because he saw my follow-up question coming.
No, that's okay.
We're chatting with Mayor-Elect Bill Carpenter here on AM 1460, the new WXPR. Bill, you mentioned that...
I just don't think it's appropriate this early in the process for me to be talking about individual positions.
Sure.
It's just not appropriate.
Now, you mentioned that it was not lost on you that you won by 50-plus votes. You also could have just as easily lost by 50-plus votes.
Correct.
Interesting scenario as you become mayor in January is that it was almost a 50-50 divide in terms of votes. Right. So while 50% of the city is with you, 50% of the city voted against you. And some people just may have been more comfortable with Linda Balzotti. Some might have been more passionately for Linda Belzotti than you. You've got a lot of people to win over at this point. As many supporters as you have to win a lot of folks over as well.
So my feeling on that, Peter, is first of all, I'm going to work as hard as I can over the next 2 years to earn the trust and the confidence of the 7,000 people who did not vote for me. And to be effective as the new mayor, I'm going to have a short memory, and I will have a short memory, because I need to pull everyone together in the best interests of the city. And I can't spend a lot of time reviewing the scorecard trying to remember who was on whose team. You just can't do it. You can't do it and lead effectively. So, in one hand, I do understand the margin. On the other hand, we won the election, and I am going to be the mayor of this city for the next 2 years. We're going to seize the opportunity, and I am going to do everything I can to convince all of the residents of the city that it was a good choice, whether they actually voted for me or not, whether they campaigned for me or not. I'll have a short memory. I will bring people together. I will reach out to people, and that's part of the transition process over the next couple months. And I think that you'll see, as we begin to assemble our team in City Hall, I think you're going to see a very diverse team. I think you're going to see a lot of different kinds of people. But I'm not going to be afraid to reach out to people who didn't support me in the election and ask them for their help. And I believe they will help, and I believe I'm the type of person. I think if you ask people who serve with me on the school committee, if you ask people who've known me for a long time, I think one thing people say about me is I get along with everybody, even when I disagree with them. And so I'll have a short memory, and my effort is to bring everyone together in the best interest of the city.
Few unprecedented things, nearly unprecedented things in this election. You finished second in the preliminary, and then were able to win the general election. I'm also not sure if anyone's gone from school committee directly to mayor.
Yeah, Win
in
Farwell.
the past. Oh, Farwell. I was a youngin' back then.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Who also worked for the city at the time that he ran also. So there are some parallels there. In terms of the school committee, I think it's going to be a big advantage. Kathy Smith is our new superintendent. Anyone that's paying attention knows I've been a huge supporter of hers and lobbied for her to be the new superintendent. I think she's going to be a great leader of the school system. The mayor serves as the chair of the school committee. So I think that does put me in a unique position that as I take over as the chair of the school committee on January 6th, that I'm completely up to speed on everything that the school committee is working on. I've worked on the last 4 school department budgets, and I think it's going to be an exciting time with a new mayor and a new superintendent that I know that Superintendent Smith and I are going to have a great relationship, because we already do have a great relationship, and that's just going to strengthen as we work together in the best interest of our schools. And so I think that's a unique opportunity that I plan to really take advantage of. Our school system is one of our strengths in the city. You can always do better, and I've pointed out some things we need to do better on, like the high school graduation rate needs to improve. But we do have a great school system. My kids all received a great education in the Brockton Public Schools. We have great people working for us. And if anything, I hope I can do a better job of really sharing that with the rest of the world when we talk about all the great things about Brockton. One of them is we do have a great school system.
We've talked in general terms about what you'll be doing moving forward starting in January. Let's backtrack a little bit to Tuesday night. I had someone who listened on the radio say to me after, said, "How did Bill look? Was he just gloating?" And I said to them, gloating is the wrong term.
No,
he did not look stunned. He did not look astonished. He did not look shocked. But there was a look on his face that said to me, "Holy crap, this is real."
Yeah.
Is that the best way to describe it?
It was a combination of a couple things, Peter. It was several emotions. There were a lot of different emotions. I was humbled by it. I was a little overwhelmed with the reception when I got to the elections results party at Joe Angelo's. I'd made plans to meet the media outside and then go inside for the celebration.
I had the first interview, and that became 3 people following me.
It became a press conference.
It became a press conference because I didn't anticipate the crowd inside coming outside to the parking lot to get me. So that part caught me a little off guard. So you're right, I was a little off guard by that aspect. It was an emotional time for me. The closest members of my team were with me when we got the news, and the rest of them were waiting for me to celebrate with me. So it was emotional. It was humbling. I was a little off guard by the size and the enthusiasm of the reception before I could even get out of the car. all of those things. There's a lot of things going on, but my feet are back on the ground already. I understand the size of the challenge, and we're looking forward to it. I can't wait to be the mayor. I just really, just last night attending that traffic commission meeting and meeting with some of the residents, and it really hit home. They said, you know what? It is the toughest job in the city. It absolutely is the toughest job. I've known a few of the previous mayors, and it is a tough job, but it can also be a very rewarding job because you can really make a difference, and you can make a difference in the lives and the quality of lives of the people who live in the city, and you can have an impact on the future of the city for a long time. So it's a challenge. It's a great challenge, but it's one that I signed up for. It's one that I asked for, and I can't wait to get to work.
Well, Bill, I think that your roots in the city, a lot of people will look at your roots as coming from this frequency, AM 1460. You were the longtime host of the Newsline program on Friday mornings, voice of Brockton Boxers football, hockey, and basketball. For many years as mayor, will you make it a frequent stop here to 250 Belmont Street to join us and Ron Van Dam and others on the air?
Absolutely. I think that... let me address one thing quick that I heard that Ron was talking about in the air yesterday morning about the signs not all being down yet. So let me just tell the listeners about the signs. I gave everybody Wednesday off, not just myself. We had a big celebration Tuesday night, and we earned it. 7 months of hard work. We earned a little party Tuesday night. And I told everyone to take Wednesday off. Yesterday, we had a team of people, volunteers, out taking the signs down. It took us 3 months to put all those signs up. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a few days to take them down. We will have at least 2, if not 3 teams of volunteers out all weekend taking the signs down. I'm very cognizant of it. We are going to get them down as quickly as we can. We put up over 800 signs. It took us 3 months to put them up. Those big signs have to be constructed. You don't just put them up. They have to be deconstructed to take them down.
Before that, Bill, you have to put your thank yous on the sign first.
Well, we wanted to do that, but I think at this point we just got to get them down. I am going to find a lot of different ways to say thank you. Because I am very grateful, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because I am extremely grateful to the confidence that the people in the city have placed in me, and I'm going to work hard. I'll be the first guy in the morning. I'll be the last guy out at night turning the lights off, and I'm dead serious about that, and the residents of this city are going to get everything I've got for the next 2 years.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Metro South Morning Show this morning. Any final words for our listeners before we let you go on this Friday morning? We should mention that we'll have you on in more detailed discussion in the future at some point, but I think that this was just the way to do it this week.
I kind of never really answer the question. I will be very accessible. I think it will be, you mentioned it, Peter. I have some background in the local media, so I'm very comfortable in the media, and I want people to feel as though I plan to host my own cable access TV show so that we can be bringing information directly to the residents of the city. I'm a pretty easy guy to get a hold of. If you're looking for me and you can't find me, then you're not looking very hard, because I think I've always been very much all around the city and involved in a lot of things and out in the public all of the time, and I plan to continue to be that way, and folks will be able to get me if they need to address something with me.
Well, that is Bill Carpenter, Mayor-Elect of Brockton, joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXPR. Bill, thanks for joining us.
I know we spilled over the break. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right, Bill.
Right. But I appreciate the invitation. And I did have a brief conversation with Ron the other day, and I am going to continue the tradition of a monthly appearance with Ron Van Dam on the show. So it doesn't matter how much he beat me up during the campaign. I'm still going to come on a show every month because it's important. It's important that the mayor be in various forums where people can bring things to the mayor's attention, ask questions, get answers, and so I'll certainly be available to you guys. I'll be available to the newspaper. I'll be available to Ron. It's important, and we're going to go through some tough times. I'm going to have to make some tough decisions, and I know that, and I think it's going to be important for people to get some insight from me as to what went into those decisions.
Well, we'll look forward to those appearances from you here on the station and on the Ron Van Dam Show in particular. That's Bill Carpenter joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXPR. We'll break for local news. Back with more of the program after this.